So I hit 500 paid customers. For a bit more context, the app is a web-based app. It launched about 10 months ago, so August 2020, and now we're in June 2021. So around 10 months ago. And originally I just created it for myself.
On this episode, we have a hacker, solopreneur, Marie Ng from Llama Life. And Llama Life is a super quirky to-do app that I'll have her describe.
Cool, thanks, Peck. So Llama Life is a productivity tool that helps you work through a list versus just making lists. There's a lot of tools out there that help you create and add tasks to your day, but I wanted to create something that provided a little bit more structure and guidance to help you complete tasks and actually work through that, cross things off that list.
Yeah, I'm actually guilty of that. I have multiple Trello boards and I have multiple long lists that, how I go through it is, of course, kind of like the Kanban style, but also, set due dates, but they kind of somewhat work, but not really sometimes. Yeah, so I think that's a good idea.
It's funny you say that because I actually use Llama Life in conjunction with other tools. So I used to use Trello and the Kanban style, and now I'm using Notion. Notion has a similar kind of Kanban board built in, plus a lot of other things like the databases as well. But what I'm finding is that, part of the reason I created Llama Life was that my Kanban boards were just getting out of control. So I would create one and the list would get longer and longer, and eventually I'd have to scrap the whole board. It was just too overwhelming. So what I do now is I do actually still use Kanban lists. Like I put all my projects and all my to-dos in Notion at the moment. But when I want to focus for the day, I transfer them to Llama Life, because Llama Life is very much kind of a day planning tool and a focus tool. So you might not hold everything in there. You might just transfer stuff over when you want to, just power through a list. And the way it's designed, I think it makes it quite quick and easy just to set up tasks. There's a lot of keyboard shortcuts, and it's kind of really geared toward creating things quickly and then working through those quickly.
Power through, getting like these Trello board type stuff. It's good for jotting stuff down, and then sometimes you forget about it. But yeah, if you want to power through, I definitely agree that Llama Life is built for that. Yeah. I just wanted to, the reason I found you was like somebody I followed retweeted one of your tweets because you're a solopreneur who I think you hit like 500 paid customers, 20,000 tasks, and I was like, I'm intrigued. Intrigued. Impressive.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a tweet. I think I sent it, just about a week ago, and so I hit 500 paid customers. For a bit more context, the app is a web-based app. It launched about 10 months ago, so August 2020, and now we're in June 2021. So around 10 months ago. And originally I just created it for myself. So originally I was teaching myself to code. So I started teaching myself to code about a year and a half ago. And before that, I'd worked on other startups, other projects, but more from a design capacity, more from a product manager standpoint and marketing standpoint. But I've always wanted to learn to code. I think I've been I've always been sort of technical in nature and tech savvy, but I just wanted to do it myself and be able to if I had an idea, just be able to create an MVP quickly and test that myself. So it's actually, a lot of it was during COVID and the lockdown, and I just put my head down and was getting up super early, like 5 a.m. and spending, 4 hours a day, 5 hours a day, just learning from scratch, like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and then React. And Llama Life started off just being a tool for me and a way to practice, what I'd been learning. And I put it on Twitter and I got a really positive reaction from it. And after that, I thought, well, okay, why don't I just release it as a proper product, as a tool? So that's kind of how it happened. And August 2020, it went on Product Hunt. It got, it was pretty well received in Product Hunt. It got into the top 10. So it made the email newsletter the next day. And yeah, ever since then, it's kind of had this sort of steady growth. I would say nothing crazy at the beginning. So maybe the first like 8 months or so, it was growing, but I wouldn't say it was exponential. Then in the last month, or actually maybe the last 2 months, the word of mouth started picking up a lot more. It's mostly from Twitter. I build in public. I pretty much share everything I'm doing. And if I've learned something along the way, I'll put it on Twitter to see if it can help someone else, because I've learned a lot from Twitter as well. And the word of mouth just picked up from there, and people started sharing it and retweeting it and having, nice things to say about it. The language that people use when they talk about the product is very emotional, which is really interesting for me. So I've built other products before, and they've been functional, and Llama Life's also functional, but it's got this emotional component to it. Like people say, like, oh, like you've really helped me. I love this product. The design of it speaks to my soul. That's probably one of my favorite testimonials. And recently I created a wall of love. You know how people put tweets on their webpage and you get all the nice testimonials and you put that together. And I did that recently, and I realized that there was this this sort of love around the brand and this emotional language being used. And that's really what made me think, well, I could maybe make this into something larger than just a tool. Right. So it's a very functional tool right now. It's very simple. It doesn't try to be anything, beyond what is promised on the website. I think sometimes when people create tools, they just keep getting bigger and bigger and adding more features. And then you kind of look at it and go, well, what is this supposed to do? So right now, the positioning of Llama Life as a focus tool, as a way to power through this, that's very, very clear. And people like the simplicity. But what I'm seeing, because of all this customer love, is that it could go beyond that. So maybe it could extend into like physical products for the desk. So it's really interesting because somebody on Twitter created a mock-up of a physical product, right? They actually put the Llama Life branding, the logo, some of the text from the website, they actually put it onto this mock-up. And I looked at it and I was like, that's crazy. That looks like it could be a notepad, or just something for the desk, some sort of analog product to complement the digital tool and remind you that, try and work in this way, try and work in a calm, focused, productive way. It doesn't have to be kind of crazy and hectic, but if you use the tool, the digital tool, it'll help you structure your day, get through things in a steady sort of pace, and you'll end up feeling good when you finish the day. And people started coining this phrase, like live the Llama life. That actually came from customers, and that's now kind of a thing. But living the Llama life is all about this calm, focused productivity. So I'm really excited about the brand, like where the brand could go, because I think it's hard to create brands, but there's something here. And I don't know what it is exactly yet, but there's some connection that this product is having that other products I've made in the past have not had. So sorry, that was like a really long-winded answer to your 500 paid customer question, but that's kind of the history of it, how it's got to 500 paid customers. And I guess we'll see what happens next, but I'm really thinking about expanding the brand itself. Like, what can I do around the brand?
Yeah, well, it sounds like your customers are guiding you. It's almost like they're leading you to find this.
Yeah, they really are. If you look back on my Twitter timeline, you'll see the evolution of the product. So even when I was just learning to code, I was posting stuff, and you'll see the very first version is like super bare bones. There actually weren't timers in the first version. So for those who haven't seen the product, one of the differentiating factors is that for each task, you can add a countdown timer. So it's using an age-old concept called time boxing, where you allocate a certain amount of time to each task. So say the task is reply to emails. I have a ton of emails I want to reply to. Maybe I put a time box on that of 30 minutes. And when I start the task, it counts down from 30 to 0. And the idea is that gives you sort of the mental space to focus on that task, just one task at a time. That's one of the key things with Llama Life. It's one task at a time. Try and put all your attention and mental effort into that. Try and be in the moment and just enjoy it, complete it, and then move on to the next one. So that's one of the key differentiating factors. But when you look back, you'll see the original one didn't have that. It was just a to-do list, because I was practicing how to code, right? And everyone does a to-do list when you
I know, that's so stereotypical. It's like, of course, it's the first, everybody's first project.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. And and then I wanted to make it a little bit different. And I've had attention and sort of focus challenges in the past, and I still do now. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to make this into a focus tool. And the timers really helped me in everything I do, whether I'm working on something on my computer or just even something else around the house. Like sometimes I set a timer that really helps me focus on that one thing at a time, and try and keep an eye on the time passing, because sometimes it's hard to figure out, oh my gosh, 2 hours has passed and I haven't done this. So so I guess the point I was making was if you look back in time, it's really evolved, and the customers have seen that. The people following on Twitter have seen that, and they've given input along the way. And I noticed people were talking about the fact that they were comparing it to other tools, saying, I like this because it doesn't feel like it's putting a lot of pressure on me. So there was this wellness or mental health angle that I hadn't originally thought of, right? I originally just made this like a tool, just a functional tool. But people started saying, I like the design. It doesn't feel high pressure, but it's still very powerful. But it's not making me feel guilty that I'm not doing things. It's more about positive reinforcement than, showing you all the stuff that you haven't done. It's not heavy on statistics. There are some reporting metrics that it will give you on how many tasks you've completed, how long it's taken you, but it's not, I would say, versus some other tools that are really heavy on stats. Sometimes when you look at that, at least for me, and the feedback I've been getting is that it can be overwhelming. And the other challenge with stats is that if you don't use a tool every day, right, if you don't use it in a consistent manner, the stats that you see or the trends that you see aren't that meaningful. Like if I skip a few days, maybe my average for the week is suddenly cut down. And I think sometimes that can be discouraging for people.
Sure.
So with Llama Life, I try and give you some information, but not too much, right? The focus is more on the outcome, which is completing the task. And it's less about tracking stuff over time and, saying I was X% more efficient this week. You'll know if you're efficient if you're completing your to-do list, like if you're completing the tasks. So that's kind of what I'm focusing on, is more that outcome.
And you recently have a new win in terms of investment. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so that was super exciting, and it was quite unexpected as well. So I recently got into the Launch Accelerator, which is backed by Jason Calacanis. It's a 15-week program. It's a very small cohort. So there's seven companies that go through the cohort with you. And in that time, it's really about growing the business, meeting investors along the way. So I raised very small seed round pre-seed actually of 100K. And I think that's really going to help me just sort of poke a little bit more at what's happening with the brand. So we talked about how there's this connection with the brand. I really want to see if that can scale, right? So I've got a small group of customers at the moment who are showing this love for the product and for the brand and for this lifestyle of calm, focused productivity. 500 paid users at the moment, but what does that look like when it gets bigger? And I think that's what the 100K is going to help me do. Just prod a little bit more there, push a little bit further, with the goal of, if there's more traction, if there's more signs, like positive signs, then maybe raise a little bit more money then. So we'll see. It wasn't something I was originally planning. I started this off as more, like I said, a coding exercise. Then it became more of an indie business. It's just me. I was thinking, maybe I can scale this to the dream goal of 10K MRR. And that would be a nice win, that I'm working on it full time. So 10K MRR would be enough to cover, a comfortable lifestyle. And that was my original plan. It's like that, maybe I can achieve that. But now it's got a little bit more, it's got the funding, and it's also showing these signs for the brand. I do think it could be larger than that. I guess time will tell, but that's kind of where it's at. It's at a really interesting moment because this all just happened. The 500 paid customers, the getting into the launch accelerator and the funding, this all just happened in the last 3 weeks. So if we'd spoken before this, it would be a very, very different story, and we'd probably still be talking more about, the indie hacker kind of bootstrapped business, because this was completely bootstrapped before all of this as well.
What's next? I have a question. Typically, they don't startup accelerators. They look for co-founders and stuff, not solo.
I know. I don't know what happened. So, I can tell you what happened. Actually, so I've been building Llama Life on Twitter, in public, right, and sharing a lot of the wins, the challenges. So the history is all there. It's almost like a public resume. People can go back and see the traction if they want, and they can also see the thinking. I think this is important. So with founders, or even anything, if you're doing a job interview, one of the things I look for is how does someone think about a problem, right? It's not just, obviously you want to see them solve it, but how are they thinking through that? And I think on Twitter, if you're building in public and you're sharing that, you can start to get a sense of how someone approaches things, right? And if they say they're going to do something, are they actually delivering? If I say, I'm going to look into building this feature, and then you can see, 10 tweets on from that, I've actually done it and I've launched it. I think that's something that they look for. The other thing that happened was somebody from the launch accelerator saw the product on Twitter and they bought it and they really liked it. So they reached out to me and said, hey, it looks like you're bootstrapped. Have you ever thought about raising a bit of money? And I wrote back saying, I wasn't intending to, but happy, I'm open to having a chat. I'd be really curious to see what your thoughts are. And it went from there. So we had a couple of chats after that, a couple of Zoom calls. And it kind of just happened from that. It was very, I don't know what the word is, serendipitous maybe, or it just felt right. It just kind of happened. I just kind of went with the flow because, I don't know, it felt like the right time, and it felt like the right people involved as well.
Yeah. What made you decide to build in public? It seems to be very common these days. I follow a few people who build in public, so it's very interesting.
Yeah. A few reasons. I get a lot of value from seeing other people building in public. And, I first heard about build in public through the indie hackers community. I just went online and I started off by searching just the hashtag build in public, but a lot of people who are actually building in public don't use that hashtag. So it can be a good way to find some people initially, but if you're spending time in any community, whether it's in person or online, you start to get a sense of, who are the people that are very active in the space, and who are the people that you want to follow. Like, there's a lot of noise out there for sure, but you start to get a sense of, like, I like what this guy's doing, or what she's doing. It doesn't have to be in the same category as yourself, right? It's just more about surrounding yourself with people who are trying to achieve similar goals. And that was the big thing for me, is, to hold myself accountable was one big reason. And I truly believe that you should be surrounding yourself with people that have similar goals, similar, motivation, similar energy to do things. That helps a lot. And, I've moved around a lot in my life. I've lived in lots of different cities. So I've lived in New York, I've lived in London, I've grown up in Melbourne, but I was born in Malaysia. So I've been in lots of different environments, and I've had lots of different jobs as well. And I find that who is around you, the community of people around you, or even your friends around you, like, that's who you measure yourself against, right? Whether you're conscious of it or not, they become your benchmark, almost like your norm, right? This is how things are supposed to be. And if you don't surround yourself with the right people, you might not really live up to your full potential. That's at least my thinking, right? And I see a lot of it in big cities as well. So New York, New York's full of energy, full of buzz. And I first got introduced to the startup scene there, and just being around those guys who were so passionate about what they were doing, that really helped me get excited about it too and want to do it. But if I'd never been around that crowd, maybe I wouldn't think that was a thing that was achievable, right? I don't have a family background in entrepreneurship. None of my family members are really in business, right? None of them have really launched startups before. So if I didn't actually put myself in that situation and surround myself with those people, I probably wouldn't think that's a normal thing to do, and I probably wouldn't have done it. So yeah, that's part of the reason I'm building in public. Just to go back to your original question, is obviously with lockdown at the moment, not really going many places, working from home. I used to go into a co-working space. Obviously that stopped. So I wanted to just be around people online who were doing similar things, and we could support each other and also hold each other accountable. So that's the main reason.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it resonated with me. I was a serious martial arts practitioner for a while, and hanging out with other serious martial artists, kind of like you said, it becomes the norm. It becomes the benchmark. And it's like, looking back on it, what we were doing is quite extraordinary, but because it's everybody pushing each other, right? And you're like, of course, everybody can jump in the air and kick and spin twice and stick their landing, It's not. Most people don't, but, your little bubble of people are, and of high performer martial artists or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's so where in Malaysia did you grow up?
In Petaling Jaya.
Okay.
I was only there so I can't remember a lot of it because I was very, very young when my family moved to Australia. So but Petaling Jaya was where I was born. Just going back to the sport example for a sec, I think that's such a good example. I hadn't thought about it like that before, but I used to play table tennis, like professionally, I guess. Well, maybe not professionally, but I used to compete in tournaments. Like, this is when I was a lot younger, right? Like a teenager. And, every weekend or every day we would train, me and my brother, and every weekend we'd go play tournaments. And, we were all right. Like, we were pretty good. Like, we used to win, every now and again, like under 15, like the under 15 girls section, or, under 15 doubles. But the reason I brought that up was, we thought we were pretty good based on where we were competing, which was in Australia. And then when I got to university, I wasn't playing as much, but there was a there was an Australian university team, right? So I was like, yeah, I'll join that. And, so we put together a team, and the Australian team, table tennis team for universities, went to compete in the World University Championships, right? And we absolutely got our asses kicked by pretty much every other country. Like, I remember playing one girl from China, and obviously in China, like, table tennis is a big thing, right? And the standard is just so much, it's just so different. And I remember just being so embarrassed because, like, I couldn't even score a point, right? This girl would serve, she'd serve the ball, and it was so practiced and so accurate that she'd get the ball like right at the end of the table, and maybe 1 in 5 of her serves would hit the edge of the table, which is still like a winning point for her. But when the ball hits the edge of the table, I mean, good luck with getting that back, right? Like, it's very hard. And normally it's just, you see it as a fluke or luck. But she got so many edges because she was so accurate in her placement of the ball. It was super embarrassing. And that is also a really good example of, you're only really as good as the people around you. And if you're not putting yourself around people who are way better, you might not actually get to that level, right? Obviously you need talent as well, but it helps. Like, if I was in China, maybe I'd be a little bit better than what I was here in Australia, just because of the standard, the overall standard was not as high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same similar story. Like, we never competed with the Chinese, but we competed locally. But our standard was always the Chinese, because they were so good at the sports. And like you said, it's totally unfair, because that's what they do, right? They get pulled out young. They don't even go to normal school, and they that's what they do. That's their identity for their life until they retire out of that sport.
Yeah.
But that raises the caliber of whatever it is they're doing, whether it's gymnastics or wushu or table tennis or weightlifting. And but it's so amazing. And the cool thing is, like, some of us actually were fortunate enough to go to China, and we'll train there with the professional athletes. And that'd be like, oh, if you have enough money, you can go train with the NBA if you want to improve your basketball. But that really lets you really see how good they are, and just get a taste of that. But to your point, surround yourself. Like, if you want to get good at something, surround yourself with those high caliber athletes in that sport.
and maybe you want to also pick people that aren't too far ahead of you. So I mean, it's nice to see the top, the best of the best. It is nice to see, like, where it could go, but I think it can also be discouraging.
Totally.
So you kind of want to this is the same with indie hackers. So the people that I follow on Twitter, the indie hackers I follow, they tend to be just a little bit ahead of me, and or a little bit below me in terms of where their progress is. And you can learn from both people who are still coming up. And I guess I'm only really looking at, well, I was going to say I'm only looking at MRR, but that's actually not true. You can be ahead or behind on many different things, right? It could just be the thinking itself. It could be design. Certain people are really good at design. Certain people are really good at development. Certain people are really good at the marketing aspect. And you just pick people for those different things, but at different levels. And I just think it's really crucial to pick people who are not too far off from where you are.
And to keep the accountability too is so important.
Yeah, for sure. And there's something about public accountability, and once you declare something, I guess you don't want to lose face. Like, you don't want to be embarrassed, like you haven't done something. And I mean, maybe for some people it's more than others, but it works really well for me, like, to actually say, hey everyone, I'll tell everybody, hey, I'm going to do this. I'll tell my family I'm going to do this. And that gives me the push that I need.
How is this going to change with the funding? Are you going to build a team, or like, what's going on?
So I think I will have to if I keep seeing the traction that I'm seeing. Um, I would definitely need additional help because there are only so many hours in the day, and there's other people who are way better at things than I am. So I'm sure there are developers that could just smash it out of the park. Like I'm certainly not the best developer, and I'm certainly not the best designer. I'm sure I can get people to help me to take that to the next level. And my role will probably be more about kind of just guiding and steering the product direction and the vision. But yeah, I do think I'll probably have to get maybe some part-time help at the beginning, and then we'll see where it goes from there, because I'm still sort of feeling out what the business needs. So I'm hesitant to say, yeah, I'm just going to hire like this sort of person or that sort of person. I'd probably have to do some, contract work first and see if that actually helps grow the business, push it in the right direction, and make sure it's still resonating with people. That's the key thing. I don't want to make too many changes to the core product because that's working so well, but it's more about enhancing the core product. So right now I'm adding, tiny animations in when someone completes a task. I want to make sure they feel good about completing it. There's a lot of positive reinforcement. So enhancing the core product and then maybe extending or building around it, like I said, with the physical products. Since people are already thinking that way, they're imagining it, I might just create a couple of desk products. I won't do them from scratch. It'll be more about branding, right? So you could find someone that's making a notepad, and obviously you want to pick something that's good quality, does the job, but it's going to be more about putting the brand on that and seeing if that's something that people want.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is just based on the signs, and I really like the idea of combining like the analog products with a digital tool, because the analog products that can be scattered around your environment, say on your desk, will be a really good reminder that you want to live your life in this certain way. So on the website there's a llama and it's meditating, right? It looks super calm and just composed. I want to
that could be
people,
a little thing that sits on your desk.
so someone already asked me for a like a soft toy, like can you make
or a
like
pillow, like a Llama Life pillow.
Yeah, I mean the possibilities are endless, and yeah, I guess we'll see. It's very interesting times. Like I said, you kind of caught it. You've kind of caught it at this moment of what could happen next. Because before it was just on this sort of steady indie hacker, like let's see if we can build up the revenue to 10K a month. And now now it needs to be, because it's taken funding. Now it needs to be a lot bigger, right? The expectation is a lot larger now. So I guess we'll see.
Now you're gonna go kick
we'll see.
Trello or Asana's butt with the llama.
Yeah, we'll see. I actually don't see it competing with those guys. I don't see myself competing with the project management or the to-do list apps. I see it as complementing, because when you think about that workflow that we talked about before, and I've had this feedback from customers as well, is that they typically use like another to-do list app or project management app, and they're using Llama at the tip of the workflow, which is, my day right now, what do I need to get done? Let's move those over. Yeah, it's the tool that you use as you're completing the work, right? Mm-hmm. It's meant to be like a helping hand. It's meant to guide you through doing things, doing the tasks. Whereas the other to-do list apps or project management tools, they're going to be a lot more. They're going to have a lot more features, right? A lot more, and I kind of see them as a big. It's almost like that's where you hold all your stuff. Like for me, Notion's like a second brain. It's where that's all where I put every single thing, like my projects, articles that I might want to read or refer back to. I might save like bills or I don't know, like business admin stuff, like in Notion itself. But when I'm actually working through stuff, I don't want to see all that. Like I want to.
Too much.
It's too much. Like even just going to it, can be a little bit overwhelming. So I want to always want to separate that out and say, here's Llama Life. It's super simple. It's got one purpose, which is help you work that, help you work through that list, the stuff that you want to get done like right now, today, and do it in a way where you're not feeling frenzied and like hectic, and do it in a way that's calm. So you finish the day and you feel good about what you achieved. And you're not kind of in this state of constant stress, because I think you can have two people who have exactly the same list of things to do, and they have exactly the same number of hours in a day. One person might get through that list and they might finish and be stressed. They might be like feeling really tense while they're going through it, and they might be going through it in a way that's not evenly paced throughout the day. I'm guilty of this sometimes. So sometimes I do things at the last minute, right? When things are due, I might not do something for the whole morning, and then suddenly in the last hour, I'd be like, oh my God, I have to get this done, and I'm in this panic. Llama Life is trying to encourage the opposite of that, right? Sort of a steady paced workflow, trying to approach things with a calm, focused manner. And it's easier said than done. Like it's not going to be a magic solution. You still need to put in the work, but it at least will help guide you through that and maybe give you a certain approach that you can use to help you get there. But it's very hard to do. Like I'm certainly not there. That's why I've created the tool. But it's something I aspire to, right? I want to work my day in a calm, productive way. And I feel really good when I'm productive. For me, there's a link between my happiness and productivity. I don't know if that's for everyone, but I certainly, when I'm not productive on a given day, I don't feel great about that. So it's hopefully what Llama Life can help people achieve.
I think that's for a lot of people, right? Time is precious, and that's the only thing you have that you can't take back. And if you spent it in an unproductive way where you kind of feel like, it wasn't well spent time, then you kind of regret that or get upset or get stressed. Versus like, hey, if there's a tool that can help me accomplish my goals and get a lot of stuff done, you feel very proud of that.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. Oh,
is there a special code or anything for the audience?
I haven't generated one. I could look into that.
You could do it.
Yeah,
you can pass it. You can. We'll include it in the show notes later.
Yeah, we can do something like that. I will say that there is currently early adopter pricing already on the website.
Oh, well then join now.
Join now, because I don't know how long that will last. I'm still trying to figure out the price point. Like pricing is
it's hard.
It was hard. It's hard. And it's probably one of the hardest things so far. I didn't expect it to be this hard, but I think psychologically, people always say you need to charge more, you're charging too little, but it's very hard as the person who created the product to value your work, right? I look at it and I go, oh yeah, I think it's only like this much. And someone else looks at it and they go, you're way underpricing this. And the good thing is nobody's told me it's too expensive yet. So maybe they are thinking that, but they haven't actually told me. So I'm kind of happy with the pricing at the moment. We'll see what happens, but it is subject to change. And if it does change, it will probably go up, because right now no one's telling me otherwise.
I think that's a good thing to do, is just keep up in the price until
You get some kind of
feedback. Even then, like you're always going to get feedback, right? Like I run an agency. There's no shortage of people who tell us we're expensive, but
that's right.
We still have business. So
well, I think you also attract a different sort of customer. So this is the interesting thing. If the price is too low, sometimes, and it's a special, right? So if it's low and it's a special, like a one-time deal, sometimes you get people buying it just because they don't want to miss out. right? They go, oh, this looks interesting. I actually had someone do this when the product was super early. So the price has changed over time already. So it started off being super cheap and like ridiculous. And I had so many people going, you're going to kill this business if you don't raise the price, and you're just, your pricing is like silly. But people were buying it, and I had people emailing me going, hey, I don't know if I'm going to use this, but I thought it looked interesting and I'm going to buy it just so I can follow your journey. And I was like, thank you, but that's not the customer you want, right? It's really flattering someone's interested, but then they're not the customer. So
right.
I think when you raise your price, you really start to attract the customers that value the product. Like they're the ones that really need it because they're willing to pay for it. But at the same time, at least with Llama Life, I don't think it's going to come from one revenue stream. So like I mentioned before,
the brand.
I don't want to raise the price to a ridiculous amount where I'm pricing people out of the product. Like, and there's a lot of students that might not be able to afford it. So I think it's going to be about diversifying the revenue streams. So the physical products that I mentioned, sort of branding those physical products. Eventually, maybe there's partnerships with enterprise. So I'd love to take on more of a wellness angle to the product, help people sort of manage their mental, the way they sort of mentally approach doing tasks throughout the day, how they're sort of managing themselves throughout the day. There could be a program, like a wellness program or a productivity program that we partner with enterprise to do. And obviously enterprise is a whole different ball game, but different price point as well. So
yeah, if they're import, like you said, right, yours is like almost like the last mile to-do list, right?
Yep.
But if they're taking it from Jira, which is obviously an expensive enterprise tool that we pay for, and other tools, then they're spending money. And if you want that bi-directional flow, for example, of completing a Llama task to Jira or something, then that's definitely worth something.
Yeah. So there's two ways to do the enterprise thing, right? One is kind of what you're suggesting, which is start integrating with enterprise level software. That's one way. But there's also just more, it's more like it's like it's not a technical approach. It's more about like a program, like a wellness program where you can say, let's get it. I had something like this in my previous company, right? We had people come in and go, hey, we're going to talk to you about sort of being self-aware, managing your productivity during the day, managing your mental health while you're at work. And, they come and talk to us for a bit and give us some tips and advice and ways to keep ourselves in check. It could be something like that. I don't know exactly yet. That is further down the track. Because I believe in more a bottom-up approach. I don't think at this stage the brand has enough credibility just to go to enterprise and go, let's do a partnership. That's going to be a waste of time, because it's going to be, first of all, I'll probably get no responses. Second of all, if I do, it'd probably be a super long sales cycle, and I don't have the runway for that. So it's going to be more about starting with the consumers, B2C, growing it out to the physical products, and establishing credibility for the brand. Then from there, maybe start doing some pilot programs with enterprise. Maybe bring on some psychologists, right? Like to help create a program, create something that's can help with productivity, and then testing that out with a few businesses, seeing if it resonates, and then going from there. But that's going to be a few years away, I think. Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing the journey in public and doing this show with us. So I really appreciate it, especially on a Saturday.
Oh yeah, no worries. I'm used to it now. Australia's, I always say, from the future, because we're generally like 16 hours ahead of everyone else. So it's it's all good. I'm used to it. Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed the conversation. It's great. Thank you.
You're welcome.